You sick bastards. You sick bastards. You sick bastards. Let me start off by saying this is not against. I've always had friends that were nerds. You know, what's it called? Yeah, I've always had friends of all types. I'm a very accepting, loving person of all type of people. You know, I've always had friends that were nerds, that always have had and still have friends that were nerds, LGBTs. I'm a very loving, accepting person, right? But I'm gonna use this description so it could be more descriptive of like who I'm talking about when I say Ned Flanders. When I say Ned Flanders, right? When I say Ned Flanders, it's to describe who, like a specific person, right? Like this was the person I would consider you know, my closest friend, closest male friend back in fucking 2020, 2021, right? A real specific time, right? Back in 2020, 2021. So if I didn't know you at that time or like spend a lot of time talking to you during that time, then this has nothing to do with you, right? Oh shit! So it's one specific person that I'm talking about, right? He would dress like Ned Flanders. I'm just using that as a description, right? With like with like dress shirt, like polo type dress shirt, always tucked in, dress pants, clean cut with glasses, Ned Flandersy, right? Or I'm just using that as a description to be more specific. It's only one specific person, right? I love nerds, right? But I love nerds. But this guy just looking at me. Yeah, to be more descriptive, it was clean cut, always dress shirt tucked in, dress pants. You know, he was really into InfoWars. And we would talk conspiracy, right? And laugh about it and shit like that, right? Laugh. Just do it. I have no idea. Sometimes a bunch of people say hi to me and shit, and I'm like, I have no idea who that was. But hello. Oh shit, I got thrown off. Yeah, he was really into InfoWars, and we would talk about conspiracy and laugh about the shit out in the open, like, you know, just ripping ass. And this was in 2020, 2021, right? So a very specific time. Like if I didn't know you at that time or didn't spend a lot of time talking to you at that time, there's nothing. It's one specific person. We he and I shared a lot of the same opinions, right? Like he was really into InfoWars and shit. And one time Ned Flanders even made a joke right out in the open, like, because we shared a lot of the same opinions, but he was always careful to look nice and look right and always give the correct answer. He would always give the correct answer or the political answer or whatever, or just say no comment. But That was his style, right? He was always made sure to look nice and polite and political. He would always give the political answer, the correct answer, what you're supposed to say, you know. And I was like, if somebody asked me, you know, I never forced myself on anyone, or like, I'm not a mean-spirited guy. I'm not a mean guy, not a insensitive guy. I would never go out of my way to be mean or insensitive to anyone. I'm not a mean guy, right? It's just not my thing, right? But I'm the type, if somebody would ask me something, I would give them, you know, just give it to them raw. I would just give it to them raw and uncut, right? I would just like say it from the heart, you know. Might give my honest answer, my honest opinion, if they asked me, right? I would never force myself anything, right? I'm the type I'd rather just like be friends with everybody, right, and get along with everybody, right? Uh, but well, he made this joke one time, right? Like, just to get real specific, he made a joke one time. We was talking, me, him, and some other guy, and he was like, "Oh, Ned Flanders was like, oh, we all know this virus is fake, right, guys? We all know, you know, referring to, you know, that thing, right? That invisible thing, the cow virus or whatever." Ned Flanders said, "Yo, we all know this virus is fake, right, guys?" And we all just laughed, right? But I'm sure if you ask him now that he's been reprogrammed, if you asked him now, he'd be like, "Oh no, I always took this dead serious. Oh yeah." Now that him been reprogrammed and shit like this, and talking about, you know, one time we would get into long ass conversations, right? He shared a lot of the same opinions as me, just that he was like more always careful to be political and shit. Be political. We were talking about, oh yeah, as artists, like our whole identity shouldn't be one boxed down into one thing, right? Like always the same thing, right? It's like, to give a random example, like, oh, it's like if a Chinese artist that was born in the U.S., born and raised in the U.S., like, does all their art always have to be about like Chinese culture and Chinese history and Chinese heritage? You know what I mean? We were talking about that, right? Like, we shouldn't be boxed down, and we should be free to do anything, right? Especially, you know, like nowadays, really. Nowadays, in these global times. I'm just kidding. And he was even saying, like, I think he said he brought that up like in a town hall. He brought that up like in a town hall or Zoom meeting, and that someone got mad about it. And I'm like, oh shit, that's awesome, right? I wish I was there, right? I wish I was there. But yeah, this guy. Now the whole thing stemmed from, at that time, and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, I'm not even really that mad, right? It's just a few things that really bothered me, right? Like, really bothered my ass. At that time, you know, back 2020, 2021, right? You could say I was like a little bit out of my mind or whatever, having a little bit too much fun, and it's exactly what it looked like. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, I was having too much fun. I was, you know, ripping ass, and sometimes I would act a little bit cocky, right? Sometimes, as a joke, right? Jokingly, I would act a little bit cocky sometimes, just because I thought it was funny, right? But I was never dead serious with it. I always would laugh about it because I was clearly joking, right? I was like, just act a little bit cocky to be funny sometimes. Or one time, you know, Ned Flanders is the one that had an intervention with me, like at the end of 2021. He had like this weird intervention was like, which came out of nowhere from one day to the next, right? from one day to the next, it was like he was reprogrammed and came back as a different person. Like literally, like one day I'm laughing, being myself, like just ripping ass, joking about whatever, and he's, one day I'm just ripping ass, joking about whatever I want, and he's just laughing. He's laughing along, like, oh, this shit's hilarious, right? He just thought it was hilarious, right? And I was like, oh, this is awesome, right? I could just be myself. But one day, from one day to the next, it's like he was reprogrammed. He switched, did a 180 switch. And I was like, telling me, had a weird intervention with me, like, oh, you need to change everything up in layman, in a respectful, way. He told me, you need to change everything about yourself, like pretty much everything in general, right? Like how you dress, how you act, how you talk, what you talk about, what you joke about. You need to act more approachable. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't know what the hell that means. Oh, like I didn't know what the hell that meant, right? Because I'm like a really friendly. Yeah, I don't know what the hell that means because like I'm a really open, friendly, loving, accepting guy, right? So I don't know what he was getting at with that fucking. You need to be more approachable. Yeah. Yeah, so a few things were weird about that, right? Like that, like you need to be more approachable, and I'm like one of the most open, friendly, approachable, loving and accepting person, right? Of like all types of people. And also he was like, it was a little bit psyopy also, right? It was like, oh, like, and he was insinuating like weird shit to me, right? Like, and I was like, dude, I was telling him like, no, I'm pretty fine, I'm doing pretty good, right? Like, I'm doing pretty good for myself. But yeah, I was like telling him like, no, literally, I'm like fine. Like, I may seem hyper and just giddy. I may seem really hyper and giddy and like I'm giggling and laughing all the time, but I was like, it's because I'm legitimately happy, right? I'm legitimately happy. I'm ecstatic right now, right? I'm ecstatic. I'm have the giggles. I'm feeling hyper and giddy. And at that time, it was literally because I was just way deeper into all the right things, right? Fasting, liquid fast, intermediate fast, regular fasts, sun gazing a lot, doing a lot of deep breathing and meditation, doing a lot of meditation and ghetto yoga, what I call ghetto yoga, right? I was deep, way. I'm still into some of these things, but I was way deeper into all of them at the same time, right? And I was. Oh shit! Dude, just scared the shit out of me. Hold on. I was way deeper into all the right things, right? What they say is the right things. And I was just feeling super giddy and euphoric and ecstatic, right? And hyper, And it was just legitimate, just joy and euphoria, right? And I was like, oh, he's insinuating weird things, right? Weird things. I don't know what he's talking about, right? But after that, I heard it out, right? I was just excited to see him and talk to my friend and shit. And I was like, oh, that was weird, right? And then I was like, but I did listen, right? I was like, well, I don't know what he means, be more approachable. I'm pretty approachable, right? But whatever, right? It was kind of weird, right? I felt awkward after that, right? I felt a little awkward, but I just moved on, right? I was like, okay. And I think my mind was still sharp and fast at that time enough to where in the middle of it, I was like, where is this coming from? Like, who told you to say this, right? Like, who told you to say it? It seemed like someone just told him to say this, right? Like, reprogram him. Someone reprogrammed him and told him to say all this shit, right? But he didn't want to say where it was coming from, right? And that was when my mind was faster and sharper. I was like, where is this coming from? Who told you to say this? And he didn't want to say it, right? But nowadays, like, my brain is almost finished, like, if that would happen like now, I would probably wouldn't think of what the right thing to say was until like a few days later, right? But yeah, but yeah, what the uh, yeah, but I just moved on. I was like, okay, this is awkward. He's telling me to basically not be myself and basically change everything about myself, right? And I was like, well, I was like, it's kind of weird now because the whole reason I liked you as a friend was because I could be myself 100% and you just laugh and think it's hilarious. And then yeah, right. Well, we moved on, right? Whatever, it's still going. We're still friends. And then I was having a little bit too much fun, right? At that time, I would act a little bit cocky sometimes or whatever. All in good fun. It was always a joke. I'm actually like the most humble, nice person, right? Like even talking to a female friend of mine recently, she told me, people might look at you like they don't get you, but you're actually like the simplest, most like humble, down to earth guy, right? And I was like, oh shucks. And I literally am that way, right? Like thinking about it, I was like, I really am. Like I talk to everybody the same. I treat everybody the same. Like I talk to the janitor the same as I would talk to the dean, the same as I would talk to like a homeless person. I talk to them the same as I would talk to like some preppy hot chick. I talk to them the same as I would talk to like some old lady that I barely met and she's talking about Jesus. I would talk to her the same as like the coolest, most famous, popular person, right? That's how I am, right? I talk to everybody the same because every human being has value in my eyes, right? That's just how I am. Talk to the street person the same as I would like a famous person or the president of a company or some shit. Um, yeah. So yeah, I was getting a little too cocky, having too much fun, and I did a little something dumb, right? And then but I was even at my cockiest, I was still humble enough because that's really actually how I am, right? Humble enough to apologize to him, right? Like I went up humbly and apologizing, right, sincerely, from the heart. And I remember, like, it sucks that no one was around when this happened. Like, it would have been great if people saw this, which I'm sure he would have acted different if people were watching. But it sucks that no one was around to see this, right? Because I was like, I sincerely apologize, right, from the heart. And he was like, this is what Ned Flanders told me. He's like, I don't accept your apology. It means nothing to me. Your apology means nothing to me, or something pretty close to that, right? Your apology means nothing to me. I don't accept it, and it means nothing to me. And then I was like, wow, like he didn't. I was humble enough to apologize, and he didn't accept it, right? And then so I left feeling like, what the fuck, right? So yeah, slowly but surely shit's falling apart, right? And then I was like, okay, well, it's kind of awkward now, right? It was never the same after that, right? And then a couple months later, I was going through some shit, right? And I really, really, really needed someone to be on my side in that moment, right? When it really would have counted for him to be on my side and be there, right? I reached out to him, right? Which is weird. It's hard for me to do sometimes, right? I reached out. And he blew me off. He blew me off. He ignored me. He blew me off when it really would have counted and when I really needed it. He did that. And I was like, shit, what the fuck? Like, what's going on, right? Like, What's going on? Like, what's up with this? So then after that, it was pretty much never the same, right? I was like, what the fuck? Well, you don't accept my apology when I really, really need you to be on my side. You fucking blow me off and ignore me and shit and avoid me. And soon after that, for a full year and a half, he proceeded to avoid me. He acted like I was dead to him and didn't exist, right? For like a year and a half after that, right? Until recently, like 2 weeks ago, he reached out to me, right? And I'm like, I didn't respond, right? Because I was like, well, what the hell? Like, would you guys respond? Like, it was like, well, what the hell? Like, after that, like, why should I even talk to you after that, right? Unless he's gonna apologize, right? Which I don't think he'll ever do, because he seems like he's legitimately a little bit arrogant. Like, he seems like he would never be humble enough to apologize, I don't think. Even though I was totally humble enough to apologize, and I would, yeah. So I was kind of like, well, why do I talk to him now, right? I just didn't respond, right? All right, like, would you guys talk? Like, someone like doesn't accept your apology, tells you you need to be somebody else, right? And doesn't accept you, doesn't accept your apology, then proceeds to avoid you. He ghosts me, basically. Proceeds to ghost you, avoid you, act like you're dead to him and don't exist for a year and a half. When someone does that, you're basically like, oh wow, right? Like, what's going on? What's up with that, right? Like, I guess he like doesn't want to be my friend and shit. Doesn't want to talk to me, right? But recently, for some reason, 2 weeks ago, like now, he reached out. So I was like, well, I don't know. I don't think there's any reason for me to talk to him unless he's gonna apologize, which I think he's too arrogant to actually ever do that. See, he's legitimately arrogant. I just played one, right? I was just playing for comedic effect, right? Because I thought it was funny, right? Because I was like, man, it's just I just think it's funny to do the opposite, right? To do the opposite of what's expected, right? Like most artists are like quiet. Well, it came hand in hand, right? Because that's naturally my personality. But most artists is quiet, uber introverted, uber like awkward and humble, and I'm legitimately am the opposite, right? Like more extroverted. I love to laugh. You could say I'm loud. You could say maybe that's annoying sometimes, but I'm extroverted. I love to laugh and joke. I love to meet new people, make friends, outgoing and shit like basically the opposite, right? And as a joke, sometimes I thought it was funny to act a little cocky, right? But yeah. And I remember one time I was asking him, right? Because I'm a targeted individual, right? Look that term of targeted individuals. I'm one, right? One time I was asking him, like, oh, I don't know why I brought it up. Oh, like, I told him something like, do you ever feel like people are bringing up really specific private things about you to you that only you would have known, like things that you said or did in private that only you would have known? People are bringing up like real specific private things about you, like, and he was like, actually, yeah, like it's almost like my every move is being watched. And I was like, is he saying that just because he thinks it's the right thing to say? Like, he knows that I'm a targeted individual, and he's just trying to win my trust back, or not? He's in that program, in that gang stalking program now, and he doesn't want to get discovered, or he wants me to think he's still on my side or something like that. But yeah, hopefully I'm not forgetting anything. Yeah, this was in 2020, 2021. Early 2022, very early 2022, he blew me off and ignored me, right? When I really reached out and really needed someone to be on my side. Then after that, proceeded to fucking ghost me for a year and a half, right? But recently reached out for some reason, and I'm like, okay, like after all that shit, you're basically like, well, okay, like why should I talk to him now? I hope I'm not forgetting anything. basically. But yeah, I'm not even that mad really. Like, I think I think if he was to apologize, right? If he was to actually be humble and apologize, I might even be just like, yeah, whatever, accept it. It's all good. But I don't. I think he's legitimately arrogant and would never humble himself enough to do that. But yeah, hopefully I said everything and made it clear there. uh, yeah.